My name is Hayden Mayeur. I'm a member of the Canadian National Long Track Speed Skating Team based here in Calgary, Alberta. I started speed skating at the age of 14. My dad signed me up for a local speed skating club in Toronto, Ontario, where I was born and raised. In 2015, I moved out to Calgary. I was always more of an endurance-based athlete. Grew up as a competitive cyclist as well, so I was a short track speed skater and a competitive cyclist in Ontario. So in 2016, I made the switch over to long track. I entered into the Canadian program for the first time in 2018. That felt really special to me to know that I'd reached a point already in my career where I was being identified by the National Sports Organization. I made my international debut in November of 2018. From that point, I continued to grow. I made some appearances at 4 Continents Championships, more U23 World Cups, but unfortunately, I actually hit a pretty tough spot in my career. February of 2020, I hit a point of overtraining. What that meant was I actually had to take a bit of a step away from racing and competition. Thankfully, I had an amazing coach that helped me find my way back onto the tracks. By the end of 2022, we were comfortable pushing me to my top end again. I earned my first World Cup medal here in Calgary at World Cup number 3 in the men's team pursuit. And then the following weekend, I was quite thankful to have earned my first ever career individual World Cup medal in the mass start, again here in Calgary in front of a home crowd, which was quite special. Fast forward a couple of months, we found ourselves in the Netherlands, host country for the 2023 World Championships, to come home with a World Championship medal in my first full-time season competing abroad. That's an accomplishment that athletes can really only dream of, and I'm incredibly thankful to have been part of that team. And looking down the road at the 2026 Olympic Games, which is my ultimate goal, we're looking at becoming Olympic champions. One of the biggest misconceptions about high performance athletes in general, and not just speed skaters, is that we eat, breathe, and sleep sport. For some athletes, that might be the way. For me, that was a lesson that I learned when I burnt out a bit in 2020. If you do take time to yourself outside of your training hours and your competition hours, you're able to put that much more into your training. You have to make sure that you're resting and recovering on your rest days, and that's not just physically, that's mentally too. So if that means you need to go down to the river and hop in for a little cold dip, you need to take care of yourself. And if you can take care of yourself during your recovery, you're able to show up to the training days and really crush it. Athletes, for the most part, are going to do almost anything that they can to capitalize on whatever gains that they have access to. We're chasing down fractions of a percentage in gains by even smaller margins than that. We're talking about hundreds or thousandths of a second. Those marginal gains are what make the difference between a gold, silver, and bronze, a world championship. I recently formed a relationship with BioAro in January of 2023. Through both the microbiome test and the blood test that I took, I was gonna have access to a plethora of information that could potentially help my team's nutritionist and team doctor work with our coaches to individualize my training and nutrition programs. So finding out that there were different sources of fuel that I could target to help me make gains in my energy stores to then transfer into performance on the ice, that alone was worth going into the lab and getting those tests done. We were able to learn a little bit more about the composition of my muscle fibers, as well as the buildup of my heart and various other areas that our team doctor can now look at in partnership with BioAro. We're all here because we want to represent Canada. We want to represent the country that we live in, and wearing the maple leaf on our chest is really the ultimate goal. I will tell you that one of the biggest pieces of motivation for me is that I would love to put myself in a position where I can continue to inspire the next generation of athletes who are coming up. Just to see so many smiles on so many kids' faces and all the questions that they had to ask me about my career path and what brought me here, it really warmed up my heart. There are kids in this sport that rely on us as role models. I don't want to let any of those kids down, and I want to be somebody that they can continue to look up to and model their careers after.